For nearly 6 decades, James Brolin has lived a life shaped by consistency rather than spectacle. From his early days on screen to his later years as a respected actor and director, he built a career without chasing attention. Alongside him, Barbra Streisand has lived a very different kind of public life. Bold, iconic, and often under scrutiny, yet together they created something remarkably private. In recent years, however, observers have noticed a change. Brolin has stepped back from new projects and public appearances, choosing instead a quieter rhythm. There has been speculation about why, but the truth appears far more grounded and human. After decades of work and achievement, his focus has shifted inward toward home, companionship, and presence. Sometimes, what looks like withdrawal from the outside is simply a rebalancing of priorities, one that reflects love, time, and the natural evolution of life. The early roots of resilience. Before becoming a familiar face in Hollywood, James Brolin was simply Craig Kenneth Bruderlin, a reserved child growing up in Los Angeles. His upbringing was structured, shaped by discipline and quiet expectations rather than outward praise. That environment didn't encourage emotional expression, but it did build resilience. As a young boy, he found comfort in imagination, creating worlds through film, sound, and simple mechanical curiosity. Hollywood wasn't immediately welcoming. Early auditions brought rejection, often blunt and discouraging. Yet those years were formative. They taught him patience and persistence, qualities that would define his later life. When he finally gained recognition through television, it wasn't just talent that carried him forward, it was endurance. That foundation stayed with him, shaping not only his career choices, but also how he approached relationships, responsibility, and the quieter, more meaningful parts of life that rarely make headlines. A career built on balance, not fame. Brolin's rise to recognition came with steady momentum rather than sudden explosion. His role in a popular medical drama earned him credibility and opened doors, but he never allowed success to dictate his identity. Unlike many in the industry, he didn't pursue constant visibility. Instead, he chose roles that fit his life rather than reshaping his life around work. He explored directing, took on varied characters, and prioritized time with family. Even when appearing in major productions, he maintained a grounded presence. This deliberate approach created a career that was both durable and flexible. It also allowed him to step away when needed without losing his sense of self. That ability, to walk toward opportunity but not be consumed by it, became one of his defining traits. It's also what makes his recent decision to slow down feel less like a departure and more like a continuation of who he has always been. Barbra Streisand's journey to strength. Barbra Streisand's early life tells a very different story, one marked by loss, determination, and an unrelenting drive to be seen and heard. Growing up in a modest household, she faced emotional and financial challenges that shaped her worldview. From a young age, she understood what it meant to feel overlooked, yet that sense of distance became fuel. Her voice, both literal and emotional, became her way forward. She didn't conform to expectations, and for a time, that worked against her. But persistence transformed perception. She eventually redefined what a leading woman in entertainment could be: strong, creative, and unapologetically herself. Her career expanded beyond performance into directing and producing, breaking barriers along the way. That same strength carried into her personal life. When she later met Brolin, she was already established, self-assured, and cautious. What she found wasn't someone to compete with, but someone who understood her need for both independence and support. A relationship built on patience. Their relationship didn't begin with grand romance, but with honesty and curiosity. When they first met, their interaction was refreshingly unpolished, setting the tone for what would follow. They took time to understand each other, building trust gradually. Streisand, shaped by past experiences, didn't rush into commitment. Brolin respected that, offering patience rather than pressure. Over time, consistency proved more meaningful than any dramatic gesture. Their connection deepened through conversation, shared values, and mutual respect. When they eventually married, it was less about ceremony and more about certainty. Their partnership was built not on idealized perfection, but on acceptance of strengths, differences, and imperfections. This foundation allowed their relationship to endure in a world where many do not. It also created a space where both could be themselves without compromise, something that becomes increasingly valuable as life grows more complex. Creating a life away from the spotlight. One of the most distinctive aspects of their marriage is how intentionally private it has remained. Despite their fame, they built a home life centered on calm, creativity, and personal space. They embraced simple routines, shared walks, time with animals, and individual hobbies that allowed them to recharge separately. This balance prevented their relationship from being overshadowed by public expectations. They respected each other's rhythms rather than forcing alignment. Even small choices, like maintaining personal space within their home, reflected a deeper understanding of what sustains long-term companionship. Their life together became less about public appearances and more about quiet consistency. In many ways, this approach insulated them from the pressures that often strain high-profile relationships. It also allowed their bond to grow stronger over time, rooted in everyday moments rather than external validation. Weathering life's changes together. Like any long-term partnership, theirs has faced its share of challenges, losses, professional transitions, and the natural changes that come with time. These experiences didn't weaken their bond. Instead, they reinforced it. They supported each other through personal and professional shifts, offering encouragement without overshadowing individuality. When one stepped forward, the other stood steady in the background. This mutual support created a dynamic that felt balanced rather than competitive. As they grew older, their priorities evolved. Public recognition became less important than personal well-being and shared time. That shift is not unusual, but in their case, it has been particularly visible. Brolin's recent decision to reduce his workload reflects this stage of life. It's not about stepping away entirely, but about choosing where his presence matters most. And increasingly, that place is not on set, but at home. Choosing presence over performance. In a culture that often values constant productivity, choosing to slow down can seem surprising, but for Brolin, it aligns with a lifetime of thoughtful decisions. His recent withdrawal from professional commitments appears less like a reaction and more like a conscious choice. After decades of experience, he understands the difference between obligation and intention. Being present, truly present, requires time, attention, and energy. These are not infinite resources, especially later in life. By stepping back, he's choosing to invest them where they hold the most meaning. This decision reflects a broader truth about aging and priorities. Success is no longer measured by visibility, but by connection. The ability to be there for someone, to share quiet moments, often becomes more valuable than any role or recognition. In that sense, his choice is not a loss, but a redefinition of purpose, a story of enduring partnership. At its core, their story is not about fame or speculation. It's about partnership. It's about two individuals who built something lasting in a world that rarely allows it. Their journey reflects patience, respect, and the willingness to adapt as life changes. Brolin's decision to step back from work is simply another chapter in that story, one that emphasizes care and presence over ambition. It reminds us that even the most accomplished lives eventually turn toward what is most personal. Love, in its most enduring form, often looks quiet from the outside. It doesn't demand attention or explanation. It simply shows up day after day in choices that prioritize connection over everything else. And in that sense, what we're witnessing is not an ending, but a continuation of the values they have always shared: steady, grounded, and deeply human.